Hi, I am Justin Paperny. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your day. I know you're very busy, and I'm going to jump right in with this story. I'm going to talk about the first time I ever cheated in 1999 as a stockbroker at Merrill Lynch. Why would I film this video? Why would I go on YouTube and begin talking about the first time I ever cheated? Uh, Good questions, actually. I'm going to film it to help all of you who may have cheated and not been afraid to talk about it, and also for white collar defendants who come across this channel. White collar advised to prepare for the shortest sentence in the best prison. And I received a call from a defendant who told me that at his probation interview, the probation officer asked him, "Are there anything else you'd like to tell me? Any other bad choices you've made? Any other struggles you've had with the law?" And it was an interesting question. It was a fair question. And the defendant said, "No, nothing else." Of course, the defendant was trying to take the approach that his conduct was aberrational, out of character. This was the only time. I'm a perfect human being, short of this little sliver of my, 6-month window of my 50-year-old life. And I understand it. You want to try to convey the message that the conduct was aberrational. But if there are things in your past, both known and unknown, that you can talk about to paint a different picture, perhaps you should. So in this case, the defendant essentially said, "No, I'm all good, no problem." And the probation officer said, "Well, I'm looking at something from like 15 years ago. You pled to a misdemeanor for receiving stolen goods. Is this you? Is this correct?" And the defendant was, totally deer in the headlights. Apologized, said he forgot, didn't understand because it was a felony, not a misdemeanor. He didn't disclose it. And just like that, that's my 1-year-old crying in the background. He just turned 1 last week, my man Jason, so bear with me. Okay, everything's okay. I think my wife Sandra's handling it, thank God. And so just like that, the interview went from positive to negative. She said, "Was there anything else you're not telling me?" So to all of the defendants watching this, never forget the cynicism of the criminal justice system, the stakeholders, as I get into the first time that I ever cheated, and I'll wrap up with these stakeholders. But I'll tell you the first time I cheated. As a young stockbroker at Merrill Lynch, we were paid to get financial plans. In other words, every time a client signed up for a financial plan, they paid $250. If I got to 40 financial plans in a certain period of time, I would get a $10,000 bonus. And essentially, the financial plan was I would come into your home. I would express to you that we can issue projections more easily through a plan. If you wanted, for example, $5 million by the time that you were 70, the plan would tell us how much we have to save, what returns. It's kind of before the internet was really blown up and you can compute that online in 3 seconds. I really believed in the product and the plan. So I had sold 37 of them, but I did not get to 40, or I was not on my way to 40 by this desired date. So one day I was in my branch manager's office and I said, "Man, I could really use the $10,000 bonus. I got student loans. I'm spending a lot of money on my business. It's expensive to live. What do I do?" And he said, "Well, have you tried everything?" I said, "Yes, I've tried every client. I can't get to 40 plans. I'm 3 short. Deadline is Friday. It kind of sucks. I could use the 10 grand. I've done everything I can." Now, my branch manager liked me. He saw that I got in at 5 a.m. every day and I left like at 8 or 9 o'clock. I worked like an animal. It was just totally absurd how much I worked. But he appreciated my work ethic. He liked my pedigree. I was a baseball player at USC. He could see that I was beginning to gain traction and bring in some high profile people. I just couldn't get to 40 damn plans, okay, people? I couldn't do it. So he said, "Well, let me help you." I said, "Okay, keep talking." He's like, "Well, isn't there a UPS store or post office across the street?" I said, "Yes, there is." So what's the downside in walking across the street and buying 3 financial plans for $250 each, giving them to 3 clients of yours as a gift, and wouldn't that qualify you for the $10,000? And I was like, "Genius! This is incredible! This is why you're a branch manager making $1 million a year. You come up with creative strategies to help your brokers." I was so excited. Of course, I didn't think that I would eventually be lying to clients, telling them that I'm giving them the plan because I so value them as a client. I did value them, but of course the reason I was giving them a plan they didn't want to buy was because I wanted the 10 grand. So I didn't walk. I ran out of his office, went across the street, got 3 money orders for $250. I'm doing a lot with my hands today. I'm going to scale back the hands a little bit. 3 money orders, filled out the financial forms, gave them to the sales manager. He turned them in. I told my clients that I bought these for them because I so value them and I know how much they need it. And within like a week or 2, I got a $10,000 bonus. What would you have done? Would you have followed your manager's advice? Something that never came to my mind Would you have taken your manager's advice and gone to buy the financial plans? Or would you have said, that's not fair. You giving everyone that advice? That's kind of gaming the system, don't you think? I don't know what you would have done. I know what I did. I wanted the 10 grand and I got it. Let me tell you the biggest downfall that came from that. And I share this with all of you defendants and somebody watching as you begin to talk about bad decisions you might have made. If you're not perfect, I'm not. If you're not perfect and you've made bad decisions, own it. Talk about it. Tell the story. That's why I'm sharing the story with all of you. The downside that came from that is I saw that my branch manager began to treat me differently based on my production and pedigree. I began to feel as if the rules didn't apply to me. And I have no doubt that in the coming weeks, months, and years, that as my decision making went from, a very ethical young executive working hard and making interest in the best decisions of my clients, to slowly having those values and ethics wear away to the point where I was beginning to put myself first, beginning to make short-sighted decisions to advance my agenda and my pocketbook and the prestige I so badly wanted in this industry. That was really the consequence. The 10 grand was great. It came and went, but it was more the fact that I felt like the rules fully didn't apply to me. There was this two-tiered system, those who produced and those who didn't. And because I produced, I was treated differently. And that is the first time I ever cheated. And of course, people say to me, why would you share this story? Why do you continue to talk about it? I speak for those who may not want to talk about it. I speak for those who maybe judge others harshly and fillet and criticize them without looking within. And I encourage all of you to look within before being so critical of others. And I've really come to think more about that in this Varsity Blues college cheating scandal case, of which I have many clients. And they're being punished, they're being held accountable. Many are going to go to prison, but I see the comments on YouTube and all the media I've done, from CNN to the Post and elsewhere, and it's this privilege. They're punished, give them the death penalty. They're terrible people. They're not terrible people. They made some bad decisions and they're owning them. It's just the criminal justice system, puts it on the front page for everyone to judge. So as I wrap up this video, for those of you watching, if you are critical of others, look within first before criticizing others. And for you defendants watching, understand the stakeholders. Understand that a probation officer's job is to parrot what the prosecutor tells them. Okay? They expect you to be evasive. They expect you to lie. They expect you to withhold. Understand the prosecutor's objective. The prosecutor someday is going to become a defense attorney, and they're going to get $1,000 an hour, and they're going to justify the retainer and the hourly wage based on convicting you. I'm doing it more with the hands. They're out to advance their agenda. You are a means to their end, just like those 3 financial plans at $250 were a means to my end, the 10 grand. We all have an agenda or objective in life. Own it, understand it, talk about it. They expect you to say, I'm sorry because you got caught. They expect you to say, I'm paying back money because you got caught. They expect, they expect you to say, I do volunteer work because you got caught. And they expect you to say my conduct was totally aberrational. It was out of character. In some places it is. But is there downside as I wrap up into you telling the story through your own efforts? As Judge Boo told us in the video, 1% to 2% of what influences him in sentencing comes from the lawyer. He's a lawyer. We work with great lawyers. Judges, prosecutors, probation officers want to hear from you. That defendant missed a golden opportunity in that probation interview to articulate how he made some bad decisions and how he learned from them, and how he needs to do better. Learn from that experience. Profit from his losses. I beg you. You've got to understand the more you share, the more it's going to help you. The system is inverted. The more you open up and talk about bad choices of how you're... Well, think about it. I mean, does it really make sense in white-collar crime that it doesn't work like this? Hi, I woke up today, and today feels like the day I'm going to steal and create victims and... ruin my reputation and embarrass my family and lose everything and read about myself online as a crook. Today feels like that day. It feels like a really good day to throw my life down the toilet. Yeah, I'm ready. It doesn't work that way. Of course not. So why not tell the story properly? Why not tell the story openly? You had the best intentions when you began your career. You had values that guided your life: family, religion, exercise, reputation, whatever it may be. But in time you began to give in to temptation without considering how those actions would influence your life. You began to rationalize your conduct in an aggressive corporate culture, and others were doing it, or you felt compelled, or you're a people pleaser and you couldn't say no and you wanted to keep up or live a life that you thought you were entitled to. whatever it is, tell the story. Share how your values got warped over time, and then talk about how you plan to get whole moving forward, how you plan to recalibrate and come back to those values that once guided you. That's what I did successfully. That's what you need to do, rather than say, no, I'm perfect. I've done nothing wrong. My conduct is aberrational. I don't know what you're talking about. Own it. Talk about it. Share it. They're going to find out. And they're cynical. So to the extent that you can open up and get into every detail of your life through your own efforts, you advance your agenda. So that's how I'm going to wrap up. If you've cheated before, own it. Talk about it. It's okay. Unless you're perfect, we've all done it. But you're in a position to help others. At least I feel like I'm in a position to help others. And I do this in part because I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old daughter, and someday they'll be executives, I hope. And someday they're going to face pressures in business, and they're going to see opportunities they'll feel pressures, and there'll be rationalizations they can give into, and perhaps opportunities to do good or bad things. And I want them to understand the consequences of everything they do. I want defendants watching this to understand the consequences of everything you think, say, or do as it relates to your sentence. And that is how I will wrap up. I'm in the suit and tie. I'm going to give a big corporate lecture in Los Angeles. I got to go hit LA traffic. Thanks for watching. I'll return soon, I hope. Bye-bye.